Society constantly feeds you a massive, highly profitable lie. They tell you that communication is absolute power. They brainwash you into believing that the guy who dominates the meeting, constantly defends his ideas, and always has a rapid-fire comeback is the ultimate alpha. That is complete biological nonsense. The loud man is not leading the room, he is desperately begging for its approval. The true elite, the top 1% of high-level thinkers and Stoic operators, understand a terrifying clinical reality that average people simply cannot comprehend. Absolute, unbreakable silence is the most lethal psychological weapon you can possibly wield. When you choose not to speak, you are not being submissive. You are deploying an advanced cognitive shield. You completely stop leaking your highly valuable neural data to a world that desperately wants to manipulate you. By the end of this deep clinical breakdown, you will understand exactly how the average person's nervous system violently panics when you refuse to give them emotional reactions. More importantly, I am going to hand you the exact architecture of tactical mutism, the strict biological framework used by elite Stoics to permanently protect their dopamine baseline and effortlessly dominate any room without uttering a single word. Listen to me very carefully right now, because your specific neuroplastic window to absorb this is rapidly closing. Every single day you react emotionally to disrespect and break your silence, you are permanently wiring your brain to remain a weak, highly predictable target. The biological damage of constantly defending your ego compounds aggressively hour by hour. If you click off this video right now, you are consciously choosing to remain highly reactive social prey. Master this clinical truth today and build your impenetrable shield, or surrender your mental autonomy forever. The difference between passivity and power. Let's clinically dissect the fundamental difference between weak passivity and raw, silent power. The average mind is fundamentally terrified of being quiet. They equate silence with social awkwardness or cowardice. When an insecure person is insulted, their primitive amygdala instantly hijacks their brain. They feel an overwhelming, burning urge to speak up, justify themselves, and aggressively prove their worth. That is not strength. That is an automated, primitive survival mechanism. They are acting exactly like a cornered prey animal making noise to scare off a threat. It is a highly predictable, biologically weak response. True Stoic power operates on a vastly superior neurological baseline. When a high performer is challenged or disrespected, they do not flinch. They simply observe the chaos. They look the aggressor dead in the eyes and allow a heavy, suffocating silence to fill the room. This type of silence is incredibly loud. It is dense, intentional, and entirely predatory. You are communicating a brutal, unspoken message. You are not important enough to consume my cognitive energy. You are not being passive, you are actively rejecting their reality. When you do this, you completely flip the biological dynamic of the room. The loud, aggressive person suddenly feels entirely exposed. They realize they just fired all their psychological ammunition into an empty void, and you didn't even blink. You remain entirely untouched while they look completely foolish. This is the absolute peak of modern Stoicism. It is the ability to stand in the middle of a burning room and refuse to catch fire. How speaking drains your central nervous system. Let's look at the actual hardware of your physical vessel. Why does talking too much physically exhaust you? Your brain has a strict, highly limited battery of daily glucose and cognitive bandwidth. Every single time you engage in a useless argument, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight response, is violently activated. Your heart rate spikes, your cortisol floods your bloodstream, and you burn massive amounts of precious neurochemistry just to formulate a witty comeback. You are literally bleeding your vital life force to impress someone you don't even respect. It is a terrible mathematical trade. Tactical mutism solves this massive biological leak immediately. When you force yourself to remain completely silent during a confrontation, you actively bypass the amygdala. You force your parasympathetic nervous system to take the wheel. This is your brain's depressed and recovery state. While the person screaming at you is redlining their biological engine and destroying their dopamine baseline, you are resting. You are actively conserving your energy. You remain cold, calculated, and mathematically efficient. Your heart rate stays perfectly flat. You are protecting your cognitive battery for deep work, building your empire, and executing your actual goals. The modern world is a war for your attention and your energy. Every toxic interaction is a deliberate attempt to extract your focus. Total silence is the only impenetrable armor that keeps your internal vault completely locked. You will never, ever hear this raw biological truth from mainstream lifestyle gurus. The algorithms and pop psychology experts profit massively when you are highly reactive, deeply emotional, and constantly seeking to speak your truth. They need you weak and engaged in the drama. Tactical mutism is a heavily guarded, classified secret that elite negotiators, CEOs, and modern Stoics use to entirely control their environments. If you miss this exact psychological architecture today, you will remain deeply predictable and highly exploitable. Wake up and claim your cognitive leverage right now. Why manipulators violently panic when you go quiet. Let us clinically analyze the dark manipulator and exactly why your silence destroys them. Narcissists and highly toxic individuals do not have their own internal source of emotional stability. They are biological parasites. They survive strictly by extracting neurochemical reactions from you. When they throw a passive-aggressive insult or try to drag you into a chaotic argument, they are running a highly calculated test. They are desperately trying to map your emotional triggers. If you get angry and argue back, you give them exactly what they want. You hand them the exact blueprint to your insecurities. You give them your data. But what happens when you deploy absolute cold silence? What happens when you offer zero facial expressions and zero verbal response? You violently starve them of their psychological oxygen. You completely deny them access to your internal matrix. This unexpected oxygen deprivation drives their primitive brain into a state of severe biological panic. They don't know what you are thinking. They don't know if you are angry, amused, or planning to destroy them. That massive asymmetry of information terrifies them. Because they can no longer use your anger to distract themselves, they are forced into a terrifying state of self-reflection. Their toxic words echo back at them in the deafening quiet, and they realize they have absolutely zero control over you. You defeat their entire manipulation tactic without lifting a single finger. You let them violently self-destruct in their own trap. The concept of tactical mutism for elite thinkers. You must completely reframe your understanding of being quiet. You are no longer shy or introverted. You are practicing tactical mutism. This is the conscious, highly deliberate withholding of information. In business, the person who speaks the least in a negotiation always holds the most leverage. In relationships, the person who requires the least amount of external validation always controls the frame. When you speak constantly, you become a cheap commodity. You are predictable, easily read, and entirely boring. Elite thinkers operate like ghosts. They are incredibly hard to read. They do not broadcast their next move, and they absolutely never explain their grand strategy to average minds. They understand that mystery is deeply intimidating. When people cannot predict your reactions, they naturally project an aura of immense power onto you. They step carefully around you because they know you possess a lethal level of self-control. Tactical mutism allows you to effortlessly gather massive amounts of data on everyone else in the room while giving absolutely none of your own away. You become an unseen predator, silently observing the weaknesses, the egos, and the insecurities of the loud crowd. You only break your silence when your words carry absolute, undeniable weight. The mathematical cost of your inability to stay silent is absolute. Your desperate need to react is actively destroying your stoic potential. Every time you break character to defend your ego, you compound your massive neurological debt. You will physically pay for this weakness with a permanently exhausted brain and zero respect from your peers. You have exactly one highly critical minute left to reprogram this massive cognitive failure. If you ignore this blueprint, your mind will remain easily manipulated forever. Listen very closely to these final instructions. How to build your impenetrable stoic shield. You must absolutely build your cognitive shield today. Break your weak social conditioning and master the terrifying art of the void. Here is your exact clinical blueprint for tomorrow. When someone blatantly disrespects you, tries to bait you into useless drama, or asks a highly intrusive question, close your mouth entirely. Do not offer a fake smile. Do not break eye contact. Simply look at them with dead, calm eyes and count to 5 in your head. Notice the massive spike of adrenaline in your chest. Your primitive, weak brain will desperately want to fill that highly uncomfortable silence to relieve the social tension. Let that weak, primal urge die right there. Endure the void. Let the heavy, awkward silence crush the other person. Watch them desperately start backtracking, over-explaining themselves, and completely unraveling in front of you. Sit with your own terrifying power. Realize that you hold the ultimate biological leverage simply because you refuse to play their game. Your mind is your ultimate sanctuary. You do not owe anyone your words, your energy, or your reactions. Train your nervous system to find absolute peace in the unsaid. Let the loud masses exhaust themselves chasing cheap validation. You are building an unshakable empire in the shadows. You are protecting your cognitive battery at all costs. You are fundamentally untouchable. Subscribe to successfully master your own primal psychology. Hit the bell icon right now. Check the elite resources in the pinned description below. Protect your mind from the loud, weak crowd. Deploy tactical mutism, build your absolute cognitive shield, and become the master of your reality today.